Good evening. I want you to think back to a time you felt genuinely taken for granted. A time you went out of your way to be kind, generous, or helpful, and the response was nothing. Or worse, entitlement. That quiet resentment, that feeling of a one-way street. That is what we're here to talk about tonight. For most of our lives, we've been sold a simple formula: be good, and good things will happen. Be kind, and people will be kind in return. Be generous, and you will build loyalty. But what happens when this formula fails? What happens when your kindness is seen as a weakness? When your generosity is met with expectation, not gratitude? When your honesty costs you more than it earns? We've been taught to be virtuous, but we haven't been taught the strategy of virtue. We've been given the tools, but not the instruction manual. And as a result, our greatest strengths, our compassion, our integrity, our desire to help, can become our greatest liabilities. Tonight, we are not here to abandon goodness. We are here to upgrade it. We are going to explore a framework for turning your innate goodness from a passive trait into an active, powerful force. We will draw insights from one of history's most misunderstood thinkers, Niccolò Machiavelli, not to become cynical, but to become effective. Because in a complex world, the most dangerous thing is not being evil. It's being good and powerless. Let's start with a fundamental principle of human psychology: hedonic adaptation. This is the scientific term for taking things for granted. We are wired to adapt to consistent stimuli. The first time you drive a new car, it's exhilarating. By the 6th month, it's just your car. The same is tragically true of human virtue. When you are consistently kind, your kindness becomes someone else's new normal. It moves from being a gift to being a baseline. This creates what I call the generosity trap. Think of a parent who always says yes. The first toy is a delight. The 10th is an expectation. The 20th, when denied, is a cause for outrage. The parent hasn't changed. The child's perception has adapted. This plays out in our adult lives constantly. The colleague who always covers shifts stops being helpful and becomes the default option. The friend who always listens becomes the free therapist. The partner who always compromises becomes the pushover. Your repeated yes does not accumulate gratitude in a bank account. It inflates the currency of your effort, making it worthless. And the moment you say no, you don't simply withdraw. On deposit, you crash the entire economy of that relationship. People don't remember the 9 times you said yes. They remember the 1 time you said no. This isn't because people are inherently evil. It's because they are human. And to be strategically good, we must first understand this inconvenient truth. About human nature, unconditional virtue is often invisible. It is the withdrawal of that virtue that gets noticed. To understand how to navigate this, we turn to a man whose name is synonymous with cunning, but whose ideas are widely misunderstood: Niccolò Machiavelli. Machiavelli wrote in a time of immense chaos and betrayal. His famous work, The Prince, wasn't a book of morality, it was a survival manual. His core insight was this: everyone sees what you appear to be, few experience what you really are. He understood that leadership, and indeed all social influence, operates on 2 levels: the reality, who you are and what you do in private; the perception, how you are seen and judged by others. The blindly good person assumes that level 1 is all that matters. The strategically good person understands that level 2 is the battlefield where influence is won and lost. This is not about being fake. This is about conscious self-presentation. It's the difference between blind honesty. Your presentation was boring and poorly researched. Destroys morale. Strategic honesty. You have a great foundation here. Let's work on making the data pop and tightening the narrative to really captivate the room. Builds capability. It's the difference between blind generosity, always being available any time for any reason, becomes expected. Strategic generosity. My time is limited this week, but what you're working on is important. I can give you 30 minutes on Thursday to help you through the bottleneck. Urge becomes valuable. Machiavelli argued that a leader must know when to be a lion, to inspire with strength and courage, and when to be a fox, to navigate with wisdom and discernment. The sheep only knows one way to be, and that is why it is prey. The strategically good person chooses their mask based on the situation, not out of deceit, but out of a desire to achieve a better outcome. Let's talk about the most finite resource you have. Not your money, but your energy. Your time, your focus, your emotional capacity. The philosophy of blind goodness operates on a fantasy of infinite resources. It says, give and you shall receive. But if you give everything, you are left with nothing. This isn't spirituality. It's mathematics. We all know the airplane safety instruction. Put your own oxygen mask on first before assisting others. We understand it intuitively there, but we ignore it in our daily lives. Why? Because it feels selfish. But let me reframe that for you. Self-preservation is the prerequisite for sustained contribution. If you pass out from lack of oxygen, you help no one. You become a second problem. If you exhaust yourself helping others with their goals, who is working on yours? If you drain your emotional reserves, listening to everyone else's problems, what is left for your own family, your own dreams? Strategic goodness requires you to become the CFO of your own life energy. You must audit your expenditures. You must ask, before any significant investment of your virtue, alignment, does this action align with my core values and long-term goals? Capacity. Can I do this without depleting my physical, mental, or emotional reserves? Impact. Will this action create a meaningful, positive outcome, or just temporary comfort? Saying no is not a rejection of the other person. It is an affirmation of your own mission. It is the strategic allocation of a scarce resource so that your yes, when you give it, is powerful, focused, and truly transformative. Building a legacy of strategic goodness. This brings us to our final and most important point, the shift from intention to impact. The world does not reward good intentions. The world rewards good outcomes. History does not remember the people who meant well. It remembers the people who did well. A doctor who is nice but misdiagnoses a patient is not a good doctor. A leader who is kind but leads their company to bankruptcy is not a good leader. Their good intentions are irrelevant in the face of the poor outcome. Strategic goodness is outcome-oriented. It demands that we ask not, was I a nice person? But did I make things better? This often requires making decisions that feel difficult in the moment. The parent must enforce a boundary. Outcome, a responsible child. Rather than always being liked, the CEO must restructure a team. Outcome, a saved company and more jobs preserved, rather than avoiding tough conversations. The friend must deliver a hard truth. Outcome, a chance for course correction. Rather than enabling a destructive path. This is the essence of true strength, the ability to endure temporary disapproval for the sake of a greater long-term good. This is how you build a legacy, not by being remembered as nice, but by being remembered as the person who made a tangible, positive difference. Your legacy is not your list of good intentions. It is the catalogue of the problems you solved and the people you empowered through your strategic actions. So, where does this leave us? We began with the pain of being taken for granted. We've navigated the psychology of devaluation, the theater of perception, the economics of energy, and the primacy of impact. You now have a choice. You can continue with the old model of goodness, the unconditional, reflexive, and often draining model. Or you can adopt the new model, strategic virtue. This is not an invitation to become cold, calculating, or cruel. It is an invitation to become more powerful so that your goodness can be more effective. It is the shift from being a sheep, well-meaning but vulnerable, to being a shepherd, wise, protective, and powerfully good. The shepherd uses a staff not to harm the flock, but to guide it, to protect it from wolves, to ensure its survival and prosperity. The shepherd makes hard decisions for the good of the whole. The sheep only follows. Your goodness is not your weakness. Your unmanaged goodness is. So I leave you with this final question, the one that will determine the trajectory of your relationships, your career, and your legacy. Will you continue to give your power away blindly, or will you now learn to wield your virtue with strategy and purpose? The choice is yours. Make it consciously. You now stand at a crossroads. You can continue with the old reflexive model of goodness, the one that often leaves you feeling drained and resentful. Or you can accept a new mantle, the practice of strategic virtue. This is not an invitation to become cold or cynical. It is an invitation to become more powerful, so that your innate goodness is no longer a liability, but your most precise and effective instrument. It is the conscious evolution from being a sheep, well-meaning but vulnerable, to being a shepherd, wise, protective, and powerfully good. The shepherd's staff is not a weapon of harm, but a tool of guidance, a symbol of boundaries, and a defense against predators. The shepherd makes difficult decisions for the health of the whole flock. The sheep only follows. Your goodness is not your weakness. Your unmanaged goodness is. So, the pivotal question remains. Will you continue to let your virtue be a passive trait that others can exploit? Or will you learn to wield it with the strategy and purpose of a master craftsperson? The choice is yours. But the journey from understanding to mastery is what we will explore now. If you're still with me, it means you've chosen the path of the shepherd. You understand the why. Now let's build the how. The first step in mastery is a fundamental shift in identity. You must stop seeing yourself as a passive participant in your relationships and start seeing yourself as the architect. An architect does not simply arrange whatever bricks are thrown at them. They first create a blueprint. They have a vision for the structure, its purpose, its strength, its longevity. Every decision, from the foundation to the facade, serves that vision. Your social world, your career, your friendships, your family dynamics is a structure you are building every day, whether you realize it or not. Until now, you may have been building without a blueprint, reacting to others' demands, using your goodness as mortar to fill every crack. The result is a shaky, inefficient structure that drains you to maintain. The architect, the strategic shepherd, operates differently. They build according to a conscious design, and that design starts with a non-negotiable foundation. Before you can effectively manage your relationships with others, you must achieve sovereignty over yourself. This is the bedrock. Without it, every strategy we discuss will crumble. Self-sovereignty rests on 3 pillars. You must have a mission that is bigger than being liked. Why are you in this job? What is the purpose of this friendship? What is the legacy you are building in your family? When your actions are tied to a deeper purpose, no becomes a strategic choice in service of a yes to your mission. A leader's no to a distracting project is a yes to the company's core objective. A parent's no to a child's demand is a yes to that child's long-term character. You must become a student of your own patterns. When do you say yes out of genuine desire, and when do you say it out of fear? Fear of conflict, fear of missing out, fear of being seen as selfish. Keep a journal for 1 week. Note every time you feel that internal sigh before agreeing to something. That sigh is the death rattle of your sovereignty. It is the data point that will show you where your boundaries are being violated. The language of the sheep is the language of reaction. I have to. I should. I can't say no. The language of the shepherd is the language of agency. I choose to I will not. My priorities require that This isn't semantic games. It is a neurological rewiring. When you say, "I choose not to attend that event," you reaffirm your power. You move from being a victim of circumstance to being the author of your life. Without this foundation, you are building on sand. With it, you are ready to construct the walls and gates of your kingdom. With your foundation set, we now equip you with the tools. These are not manipulations. They are the practical applications of your newfound sovereignty. Stop giving randomly. Make your generosity stand out by making it rare and specific. The rule of scarcity. Instead of being generally helpful, be uniquely brilliant in your areas of key strength. If you are a wizard with spreadsheets, offer to build a complex model for a struggling colleague once as a major project. This creates a landmark of gratitude, not a landscape of expectation. The power of the conditional yes. This is your most powerful weapon against the generosity trap. When asked for a significant favor, your response should be, "Yes, I can do that, and here is what I would need from you to make it possible." You are not refusing. You are setting the terms of engagement. You are teaching people that your help is valuable and requires their investment. This filters out the users and elevates the collaborators. Saying no is a blunt instrument. The master architect builds elegant understood boundaries, the when and where defense. Instead of a hard no to a request, control the time and place. "I can't discuss this right now, as I'm in the middle of something important. Let's schedule a 15-minute call at 3 p.m. tomorrow to focus on it." This asserts control over your time and energy without rejecting the person. The preemptive framework. Set expectations before they are tested. In the new project team, you might say, "To ensure we're all successful, I need to have all materials 24 hours before any meeting so I can give them my full attention." This is not a personal refusal. It is a professional standard. It makes you look organized and disciplined, not difficult. Recall Machiavelli's mask. This is about conscious self-presentation, the principle of predictable unpredictability. You should not be a chaotic person, but your specific responses should not be 100% predictable. If you are always available by email within 5 minutes, you train people to expect instant service. If you sometimes respond in 5 minutes and sometimes in 5 hours, based on your own priorities, you break the cycle of hedonic adaptation. You retain the element of agency, the strategic display of teeth. A shepherd's dog rarely bites, but it always shows it can. You must, on rare and calculated occasions, demonstrate your capacity for firmness, even anger. This is not about losing your temper. It is about a controlled, deliberate display of your limits. When a boundary is egregiously crossed, a sharp, cold and definitive response, "This is unacceptable," echoes far longer than a dozen gentle reminders. It recalibrates everyone's understanding of your limits. Tools are for tactics. Masters play the long game. They are not focused on winning a single interaction, but on building a lasting kingdom of influence and respect. Think of your social capital as a currency. The sheep spends it on every low-value transaction, quickly going bankrupt. The wolf tries to steal it. The shepherd invests it. Invest, don't just spend. A favor given to a promising, grateful junior employee is an investment. A favor given to a chronic complainer is a waste. Invest in those who have the capacity and character to reciprocate, not necessarily in kind, but in loyalty, effort, or future collaboration. Let debts remain outstanding. Sometimes the most powerful position is to be the one who is owed a favor. Do not rush to call in every chit. The knowledge of a debt can be more valuable than its repayment. It creates a web of influence and goodwill that sustains your position. You cannot be a shepherd without a flock. But a master shepherd knows that not all sheep are the same. Categorize your relationships strategically. Those who have earned your unconditional trust through repeated cycles of reciprocal loyalty. With them, the mask can come off. This is where you recharge and get honest counsel. Those with whom you have a strategic, mutually beneficial relationship. You are reliably helpful to each other within clear boundaries. This is your professional network, your core team. Everyone else, you treat them with consistent, polite, and distant respect. Your generosity here is minimal and highly symbolic. You do not invest significant energy here. It is necessary for survival. You cannot pour from an empty cup, and you cannot give your strategic energy to everyone. So how does this all come together? It creates a virtuous cycle that is the antithesis of the vicious cycle of blind goodness, the vicious cycle of the sheep. Blind goodness. Perceived as weak, exploited by others, energy depletion, resentment and ineffectiveness, cynicism or collapse. The virtuous cycle of the shepherd. Self-sovereignty, strategic action, managed perceptions, conservation of energy, increased impact and respect. Greater capacity for targeted goodness, a powerful, positive legacy. You are no longer the office doormat. You are the respected go-to expert. You are no longer the friend who always pays. You are the friend whose presence is a valued gift. You are no longer the parent who is obeyed out of fear or ignored out of contempt. You are the parent who is respected out of wisdom. You transform your goodness from a cost into your most valuable capital. This is the end of our talk, but the beginning of your practice. You will not get this right immediately. You will stumble. You will feel the old pull of the reflexive yes. You will feel the discomfort of setting a new boundary. That discomfort is the feeling of growth. It is the feeling of the sheep shedding its wool and standing up as the shepherd. Do not seek to be loved by all. Seek to be respected by the right people. Do not seek to be known as nice. Seek to be known as effective, reliable, and powerful in your convictions. Go forth and build. Build your career with purpose. Build your relationships with intention. Build your legacy with the unwavering knowledge that true goodness is not soft. It is the strongest force in the world, but only when it is directed by a will of steel. You are the architect. You are the shepherd. Now go and build your kingdom. So here we are. We've navigated the treacherous waters of devaluation, the strategic high ground of perception, and the brutal economics of your energy. You now hold the blueprint. You understand the theory of the shepherd, but a blueprint in a drawer builds nothing. The most dangerous place you can be right now is in the gap between knowing and doing. It's the comfortable, seductive space of the intellectual who never acts. You can nod along, find the concepts fascinating, and then walk out of this room and continue being the person everyone expects you to be. The final, most critical part of this journey is not about understanding the map. It is about taking the first, deliberate, and often terrifying step off the cliff of your old identity. It's about the alchemy of turning knowledge into bone-deep conviction, and conviction into unshakable action. Let's talk about that transition. Let's talk about the architecture of your new kingdom. You see, the shepherd is not just a manager of sheep. They are the architect of an entire ecosystem. They don't just react to wolves. They design pastures, build fences, and secure water sources to make the flock resilient, prosperous, and strong. Your life, your social sphere, your career, this is your ecosystem. And you, whether you've chosen to be or not, are its architect. The question is, have you been a careless one or a master? The master architect operates on 3 timeless principles. Let's build them right now into the foundation of your future. Principle 1. See the unshakable foundation of self-sovereignty. Before you can draw a single line on the blueprint for your interactions with the world, you must pour the concrete of your own sovereignty. This is non-negotiable. Without it, the first strong wind, a manipulative colleague, a guilt-tripping relative, a moment of self-doubt, will topple the entire structure. Self-sovereignty isn't about being arrogant or isolated. It is the quiet, humming power that comes from knowing with certainty that your worth is not determined by the opinions, demands, or approvals of others. It is the internal compass that guides you when external pressures scream at you to go a different way. How do you build this? It requires more than just intention. It requires a ruthless and honest practice. First, you must define your irreducible self. This is the core of you that remains when all the titles, roles, and possessions are stripped away. It's not your job as a manager or your role as a caretaker. It is the collection of your non-negotiable values. Is it integrity? Is it mastery of your craft? Is it the protection of your family's peace? I want you to do something right now, in the silence of your own mind. Identify 3 values that form your irreducible self, just 3. For me, they are clarity, creation, and autonomy. Every decision I make must in some way honor these. If a request obscures my clarity, hinders my creation, or infringes on my autonomy, the answer is automatically no. It is not a personal rejection. It is a constitutional defense of my own sovereignty. Second, you must become a scholar of your own weaknesses. The architect must know where the ground is soft. You must conduct a fearless audit of your own patterns. When do you betray yourself? Is it when you're tired? When you're seeking validation? When you're afraid of conflict? For the next week, I challenge you to become an anthropologist of your own life. Carry a small notebook, digital or physical, and every time you feel that familiar, sinking feeling in your gut before you say yes, mark it down. Note the person, the request, the time of day, how you felt. This data is not to shame you. It is to empower you. You cannot defend a border you cannot see. This practice illuminates your borders in stark, undeniable detail. Third, you must master the language of agency. The language of the sheep is the language of reaction and victimhood. I have to go to that meeting. I can't say no to her. They make me so angry. The language of the shepherd, the architect, is the language of choice and ownership. I have chosen to commit to that meeting. I will not prioritize their emergency over my priorities. I allow their behavior to affect me, and now I choose to withdraw that permission. This is not a semantic game. This is a neurological rewiring. When you verbalize your agency, you signal to your own brain that you are in command. You move from being a leaf tossed in the wind of others' demands to being the pilot of your own ship. The storm may still rage, but your hand is on the wheel. This foundation of self-sovereignty is your bedrock. It is what will allow you to use the tools of strategic interaction not as tricks, but as authentic expressions of your will. Principle 2, the tools of the architect, building with intent. With your foundation set, we now look at the tools. These are not manipulative gadgets. They are the practical extensions of your sovereign will. The old model of generosity was a leaky faucet, constantly dripping your energy until the reservoir was empty. The new model is that of a master irrigator, who directs life-giving water with precision to where it will yield the greatest harvest. Stop giving randomly. Make your generosity memorable and powerful by making it rare and specific. Embrace the power of scarcity. Instead of being generally helpful, become uniquely brilliant in your areas of key strength. If you are a masterful public speaker, offer to coach a terrified junior colleague before their big presentation. This single high-impact act creates a landmark of gratitude that will be visible for years. It builds loyalty and respect. Contrast this with the person who is always a little bit helpful on every small task. They become part of the furniture, expected but never valued. Master the conditional yes. This is your most powerful tool against the generosity trap. When faced with a significant request, your default response should no longer be a reflexive okay. It should be, yes, I can help with that. And for me to do it effectively, here is what I would need from you. You are not refusing. You are setting the terms of engagement. You are teaching people with calm clarity that your time, your expertise, and your energy are valuable assets that require their own investment. This one sentence acts as a perfect filter. It screens out the users and opportunists, and it elevates the collaborators and true partners. It transforms a transaction from a withdrawal from your account into a joint investment. Saying no is a blunt instrument, a sledgehammer. It gets the job done, but it often leaves a mess of resentment and bruised egos. The master architect doesn't just build walls. They design elegant gateways and clear pathways, the when and where defense. Instead of a hard no that feels like a personal rejection, control the framework. A colleague ambushes you with a complex problem when you're deep in focused work. The sheep says, sure, I guess I can help," and dies inside. The shepherd says, "I'm in the middle of something that requires my full focus right now. I want to give this the attention it deserves." You have not refused. You have asserted control over your time and cognitive energy. You have positioned yourself as professional and organized, not as difficult. You have transformed their emergency into a scheduled, manageable event. The preemptive framework. The strongest boundaries are the ones that are established before they are ever tested. In a new project team, you might state at the outset, "To ensure we're all successful and can meet our deadlines, I need to have all necessary materials at least 24 hours before any review meeting." This is not a personal rule. It is a professional standard. It makes you look disciplined and sets a clear, impersonal expectation that is easy for others to respect. Tool 3, the strategic persona, the architecture of perception. Recall Machiavelli's insight. Everyone sees what you appear to be. This is not a call to inauthenticity. It is a call to conscious authenticity. You are the curator of your own reputation, the principle of predictable unpredictability. You must be reliable in your character and your outcomes, but your specific responses should not be 100% predictable. If you are always available by email within 5 minutes, you train people to expect instant, subservient service. If your responsiveness varies based on your own priorities and workload, sometimes replying in 5 minutes, sometimes in 5 hours, you break the cycle of hedonic adaptation. You reintroduce the element of your own agency and judgment. People stop assuming and start respecting your process, the calculated display of resolve. A shepherd's dog rarely bites, but it always shows it is willing to. You must, on rare and calculated occasions, demonstrate your capacity for firm, unyielding resolve. This is not about losing your temper. It is about a controlled, deliberate, and cold display of your limits. When a boundary is egregiously and knowingly crossed, a sharp, precise, and definitive response, "This is unacceptable," and it stops now, echoes far louder and longer than a dozen gentle, plaintive reminders. It is a one-time seismic event that recalibrates the entire world's understanding of where your line is drawn. Principle 3. The long game. From transactions to a lasting legacy. Tools are for tactics. Masters play the long game. They are not focused on winning a single interaction, but on building a kingdom of influence, respect, and lasting impact that will outlive them. Think of your social capital not as cash to be spent, but as equity to be invested. Invest. Don't just spend. A favor given to a promising, grateful, and ethical junior employee is a strategic investment. You are buying a share in their future loyalty and success. A favor given to a chronic complainer or a known user is a waste, a bonfire of your resources. Be a shrewd investor of your energy. Let some debts remain outstanding. Sometimes the most powerful position is not to be debt-free, but to be the one to whom a debt is owed. Do not be quick to call in every chit. The knowledge of a debt, the sense of obligation in a worthy person, can be a more valuable and flexible asset than its repayment. It creates a web of mutual respect and goodwill that forms the invisible infrastructure of your influence. A sovereign does not rule alone. They have a council. You must architect your social landscape with the same intentionality. These are the ones who have earned your unconditional trust through fire. They have seen you fail and did not look away. They have your back without you asking. With them, the mask can come off. This is your sanctuary for vulnerability and honest counsel. Protect this circle with your life. The valued allies. This is your network of strategic, mutually beneficial relationships. You are reliably helpful to each other within clear, respected boundaries. This is your professional core team, your most trusted collaborators. The relationship is built on respect and reciprocity, not necessarily deep friendship. The general populace, everyone else. You treat them with consistent, polite, and professional respect. Your generosity here is minimal, symbolic, and never drains your core resources. You are civil, you are kind, but you are not an open bank. This is not cold-hearted. It is essential for survival. You cannot pour from an empty cup, and you cannot give the strategic, focused energy of your inner circle to every passing acquaintance. So, how does this all come together? It creates a virtuous cycle that is the absolute antithesis of the vicious cycle of blind goodness.